Good morning, sir. Welcome to this session of Uncovering India. As you know, we are meeting today on the issue of cyclones, especially the increasing number of cyclones with high intensity on the Arabian Sea. And whereas last year it was 5 cyclones which were registered on Arabian Sea in comparison to the average of one. And whereas Bay of Bengal is known to be more prone to cyclones. So, what is this phenomena that is happening? Please throw some light on it, because we are right now sitting on the coast of on the west coast, which was also one of the affected areas. So, how do you see this phenomena?
To understand the cyclone activity in the Indian Ocean, which is very, very peculiar. We have two tropical basins, the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal, and traditionally from the experience, we understand that the number of cyclones in a year is more in the Bay of Bengal than the Arabian Sea. But Arabian Sea, there used to be seldom cyclones. There are several years there are no cyclones at all. But of late, what we are seeing is that the number of cyclones in the Arabian Sea is increasing. And it is not only that, it is the number is increasing, the intensities are increasing. Now, this has triggered us to ask why so. Both the Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea sitting in the same latitudinal belt, forced by the same atmospheric forcing, like monsoon. But why then the Bay of Bengal has more number of cyclones than the Arabian Sea? The answer lies in the fact that Bay of Bengal at any point of time is much warmer than the Arabian Sea. It is at least about 1.5 to 2 degrees warmer than the Arabian Sea, and that is primarily because of the fresh water that Bay of Bengal has, which has a capacity to hold more heat without letting it mix up with the deeper waters. So this warmness of the Bay of Bengal would mean that the probability of spinning cyclones are much more. Okay, that's fine, but what is happening of late? To understand this, people talk about that there's a global warming, climate change, and then maybe this phenomena that we are seeing is because of the warming scenario. Is it so? There has to be some scientific rationale for that. So to understand that, one could look at the sea surface temperature, which is one of the 5 parameters which is important for the cyclone to spin. So warmer the sea surface temperature, more cyclone or more intense cyclone can be spun. So if you look at the sea surface temperature variability in the Arabian Sea, you could see that the sea surface temperature varies, shows a decadal variation, and that has a very good correlation with the sunspot until mid-90s. But after mid-90s, what we see is that there is a breakdown in this relationship, and sunspot continues to be driven by the level of cyclicity, but Arabian Sea kept on warming. Now, if you look at the same data set in the Bay of Bengal, the scenario is similar. Until mid-90s, we have the sunspot and SST very largely coupled and strongly holding good, but beyond that, it is not. Now, you can also look at ask the question why. Why is it happening here like this? And you can, if the climate change is the forcing, then CO2 should have a role in that. So one could look at the correlation between the CO2 and then the sea surface temperature and also sunspot. So if you do a multilinear regression, what we find is that until mid-90s, it is the sunspot which is driving the SST variation both in the Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea. But once you cross the mid-90, the impact of the sunspot becomes less, and you see that CO2 is having a more good correlation with this. It's almost about 0.9, which would mean that the warming of the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal is tightly correlated with the amount of CO2 into the atmosphere. So this gives a robust indication that probably the anthropogenic forcing through the CO2 emission could be one of the possibilities. So what is the scenario? The scenario is the following. If you look at the total number of cyclones, you will see that the Arabian Sea shows an upward trend. But if you look at the Bay of Bengal shows a trend which is slightly declining, especially when you take the data set from 1960 to 2020. So the question is then, why is that we are seeing more, increasing trend only in the Arabian Sea and not in the Bay of Bengal? So to understand it, probably we have to look at the not only the total number of cyclones, but also look at them in category wise. So if you break it down to that way, what we see is that after 2000, this 20th century, the number of the intense cyclones are increasing, both in the Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea. That means you will spin more intense cyclone. So in the Arabian Sea, the numbers are increasing as well as the intensity is increasing. Whereas in the Bay of Bengal, the number is not showing a very great change, but the intensity is showing a very large change. So this is something which we need to deal with that, and which will have a lot of implication to the impact that will be felt in the coastal region. So one thing is that you will have a coastal flooding very often, and second thing is that the damage, destruction is going to be much more intense because of the intensity of the cyclones. And Arabian Sea was not experiencing cyclone, but now the new phenomena is that it is more and more number of cyclones are occurring. So what kind of scenarios are we getting it? Initially it was occasionally you will get a cyclone, but now the things are, you have simultaneous occurrence of cyclones both in the Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea. We have done a recent study about that. One good example is that Titli Duban, which has happened in both simultaneously at the same time. Normally, ocean cannot sustain one cyclone after the other because it takes a lot of energy from the ocean to spin the cyclone. But we have seen that in the case of Bay of Bengal, back-to-back occurrence of cyclone. And also we have seen the cyclone which has been reversing its tracks. So there are a lot of different combination of cyclone occurrences we are experiencing, which is completely a new experience for us. Now, so what is the implication? In the land, it's a destruction, and what about the rainfall pattern? If you look at that, the east coast, especially Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, gets its rainfall basically from the northeast monsoon, and that too very limited. But bulk of the rainfall occurs whenever there is a cyclone. So if there is a cyclone, the cyclone probably will be hitting the Orissa coast or West Bengal coast, but the rainfall will be more experienced in the Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh. So in that way, it's a boon for the state to get rainfall, which they can conserve for the next season. But the area where it is hitting, that is devastating. So probably we need to have a lot of mitigation plan in place. So we need to gear up for this eventuality. So what is happening with the time? It appears that with this climate change really taking place in the Indian Ocean region, we will see a very large change in the water cycle. And luckily, the Asian regions are blessed with the seasonal monsoon, which will give you a lot of rainfall. But that pattern is going to change because the intensity of the rainfall again will be tightly coupled to the number of and intensity of cyclone. Another thing is that, okay, so this is the scenario in the land, but what about in the ocean? The ocean cyclone is a very good phenomenon because cyclone can bring a lot of biological productivity. I'll give you an example. If you look at the biological productivity in terms of phytoplankton in the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal, you would see that Arabian Sea has a very high biological productivity, very high chlorophyll biomass, and also very high fish catch. But if you look at the Bay of Bengal, the chlorophyll that you see in the upper ocean is much less compared to the Arabian Sea. So, whenever there is a cyclone, the cyclone can bring a lot of nutrient from subsurface to the surface ocean, thereby kick-starting the ocean biology. So, on an annual basis, the biological productivity is much less in the Bay of Bengal, but it is this cyclone which will increase the productivity of this region. So, for the oceanic life, it is excellent. They are very happy because there will be a lot of carbon turnover and production of organic carbon and phytoplankton, and the fish will thrive. But there is also an added disadvantage here. The reason is, whenever there is a cyclone the cyclone will bring cold waters to the surface. The cold waters can hold more amount of CO2. Now, if you look at the ocean from surface to the bottom, the concentration of CO2 goes on increasing from surface to deeper down. Colder the water, more is the holding capacity of water for CO2. So it would mean that during the cyclone, when you bring the cold waters to the surface, these will be super saturated. So this water will start giving out the CO2 to the atmosphere. So there is a CO2 emission from the ocean to the atmosphere, which again is not a good sign. So look at that. The nature has its own balance. You have a high amount of CO2 into the atmosphere, and then that can lead to the warming. Now that warming can kickstart the cyclones. So once you have the cyclone, you will start pumping the deeper water into that, and then the phytoplankton will multiply. Phytoplankton can draw down the CO2, but the cold water will give up the CO2 as well. So more number of cyclones would mean at least locally or regionally you are going to alter the carbon dioxide cycle, which is again a serious issue which need to be studied more and then to understand.
So what happens when this carbon dioxide which is emitted in the atmosphere goes into the sea through cyclone, again comes back to the surface? So what is the implication then? Then the global warming, that is main trigger being carbon dioxide, CO2,
yes,
that will keep on hastening the pace of the global warming? How do you
yes,
see that?
the reason is if you warm up the ocean is a very great reservoir of CO2. Now in the polar region, when it's winter time, there is a lot of, that water is very cold, and cold means it is denser, so a huge amount of water is being sunk into the deeper ocean from the polar region, and that water will circulate through the world ocean bottom. Now these bottom waters will start coming up slowly upward. Now if the ocean is getting warmed up, ocean's capacity to hold CO2 will reduce, which would mean that more and more CO2, whatever was there in the ocean, will be given back to the atmosphere. So that again can accelerate. So it's like a positive feedback.
It will become a vicious cycle, you think?
Yes, it is a positive feedback. People are talking about the runaway warming scenario and runaway cooling scenario. So these are all, will it be, usually we think about the phenomena linearly, but nature is not linear. You increase the temperature by 1 unit, maybe the CO2 will be increased by 2 units, not that way. It is different part of the ocean will respond differently. Look at that, I told you about the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal. Same latitude, same forcing, but Arabian Sea is much colder than the Bay of Bengal. So it would mean that Arabian Sea will hold more CO2 than the Bay of Bengal. So regional oceanography becomes very, very important. That's why people are spending a lot of energy and effort to understand the regional oceanography. Globally, yes, we understand what it is, but when you apply those results to the regional oceanography, things are different. So Arabian Sea is trying to behave differently, and Bay of Bengal will try to behave differently. I'll give you an example. See, if you look at the Arabian Sea cools 2 times a year. During the winter time, generally there is a cooling because the sun is in the southern hemisphere. So overall there is a cooling. So winter time there is a cooling. There is also a cooling during the summer time when there is a huge upwelling process called upwelling that takes place. Because of the wind, southwest monsoon wind that is blowing along the coast of Somalia, Arabia, and southern part of the west coast of India, you would see that a lot of subsurface water comes up, and that is a natural way in which the Bay of Bengal the Arabian Sea is cooled. So Arabian Sea cools 2 times a year, whereas Bay of Bengal do not have such kind of a mechanism. So that is why probably nature is spinning more cyclone. So if you spin more cyclone, you will cool it down, because the season temperature will cool at least about by 2 to 3 degrees after the passage of each cyclone.
So from disaster management point of view, what is this trend seems to be now going to be the new normal. Now, what kind of disaster management mitigation plan should the country and the Indian Ocean region countries should look at?
Yeah, I think the Indian Ocean rim countries should be well prepared in terms of capacity building. First of all, the awareness. And second thing is that this is a norm. As you said, this is a new norm. That more number of cyclones are here to stay. The intensity is going to increase. So the question is, how do we deal with this? Which would mean that we would need a very good predictive system. A predictive system wherein we can forecast the occurrence of cyclone and the landfall. And
early forecasting.
Early forecast. And luckily, India has made a very big stride towards this in the Indian Ocean region. The Indian Meteorological Department has a very good predictive system now. The cyclone track can be very well predicted because there are satellite, there are radars. A combination of remote sensing technique gives a real-time location of the cyclone. So the uncertainty probably is the landfall. There are still some prediction errors with the landfall, but broadly we could, for example, we could say that very nicely which part of the coast will be impacted, whether it be Orissa, Andhra Pradesh, or Kerala, or the West Bengal. Now, in West Bengal, which place? There is an uncertainty, but nevertheless, the model simulations and also the observation capability is enabling us to predict it much more better. I'm sure in coming years, the IMD also will come out with much more better prediction. See the last 5 to 6 years, you would see that the casualty in terms of life is much less, and that is primarily because IMD is able to predict it well in advance. And the government has now a disaster preparedness mechanism wherein I think the district level people are involved in mobilizing the system in such a way that they can be taken to the safer areas and things of that kind. So more and more cyclone will happen, but I think maybe our mitigation strategy need to be modernized with modern technology and the real-time monitoring of that, and the mobility of the people.
And agriculture producer, because agriculture is one area which gets hit every time because of this climate phenomena. So what kind of measures do you think the agriculture sector now needs to take?
Agricultural sector is seeing a phenomenal change. For example, traditionally, even now, Indian agriculture is basically based on the rainfall. It's the monsoon rainfall that we depend upon. Now, there was a pattern of rainfall based on which the traditional farmers have, generation together, developed a scheme by which they will decide when seeds could be sown and then when the crop will come up. So they have nicely planned it out based on a traditional understanding about the system. But now that understanding need to change because the pattern of rainfall is changing. I'll give you an example. See, usually the peak rainfall used to be in July. So our rainfall pattern is that you will have the monsoon activity and higher rainfall from June to September with peak in July. But off late you will see that the peak is no longer in July. It is in August and even September. And this year you saw that even in the end of September we had a very high rainfall. So we have already crossed the seasonal average much earlier. So which would mean that the sowing pattern of our agricultural community need to be changed. So they need to be educated more. So it will be more scientific farming need to come in. So the weather prediction will have to be factored into that, and there is a lot of work that need to be done. Working with farmers, educating them onto the rainfall pattern and how it is going to be, and also what kind of crop that one could come up with. So that also is going to change because we have a kharif and then the winter and the monsoon food production. So food production is going to change, and so also the water cycle. So we probably are beginning to understand that in a more scientific way. Slowly but surely we are learning lessons, and then things are getting implemented. I'm sure it will take time, but we are there. I think we are progressing in the right direction in terms of the prediction, in terms of understanding.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your inputs, and it was an honor speaking to you, sir. Thank you so much.